Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined the AI and Technology Conference. For our next presentation is from Envoy Medical. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Brent Lucas. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Envoy Medical, which trades on Nasdaq under the symbol COCH. Welcome back, Brent.
Thank you, John. It's good to be here again. And thank you all for joining us and learning about Envoy Medical. As John said, our ticker is COCH. We're on the Nasdaq, and I'm very excited to get into the presentation and give you some more information. This slide deck's available on our website. You can always go to our investor relations portion of our website to pull it down and study in more detail. At the end of the day, Envoy Medical is a hearing health company. We make breakthrough technologies in the form of two devices. Both of our devices are unique from what is currently available from other hearing technology companies. The first product is a FDA-approved product. It's called the Esteem. It's an active middle ear implant that is totally implanted. Nothing like it has received FDA approval, and nothing like it is commercially available on the market in the US or overseas at this time. We also have the fully implanted Acclaim cochlear implant, which is in FDA trials as we speak, and we believe will be complete game changer in the cochlear implant space, and quite frankly, in the entire hearing industry as a whole. That product received breakthrough device designation from the FDA in 2019 and has essentially been fast-tracked to get it to approval as fast as we can. We have a lot of technological differences between ourselves and the competition. But when you look at it, we have a great patent portfolio, and that patent portfolio is growing. But when you look at it, what that real differentiator is that we use the ear to pick up sound. So we have a sensor that sits on the incus bone, which I'll get to in a little bit, and that picks up the sound and allows us to use the ear as a microphone. So we don't have to rely on anything on the outside of our head to pick up sound. We use the ear to pick up sound, and that makes us completely different from everything else on the hearing aid to cochlear implant market that currently exists. We are completely different, and we are setting the stage for the future of hearing healthcare. We have some very large investors, including Glenn Taylor, who's a former chairman of the company and chairman emeritus. He's invested a substantial sum in this company. I also am a shareholder that goes back to my parents first investing in this company. So this is a very important technology that a lot of us want to see come through. And this is not just a CEO collecting a paycheck. This is actually something that I put my family's money in. My friends and family are in this, and we want to make sure this is successful. And I hope you come along with that ride with us. Also important to note, I believe that we're currently the only American-owned and operated hearing company listed on a major exchange. And frankly, we're the only American-owned and operated cochlear implant company. All of our competitors are currently owned and operated by foreign companies, and I think that will provide us a unique set of competitive advantages as we go forward. So to understand the beauty of our technology, you first have to understand the beauty of the hearing anatomy. And that is, our hearing organ has evolved over time to pick up sound in a very unique way. So we have the pinna, which is the big floppy thing on the side of our head that everybody knows. You know, that's the thing that we all think about when we think about an ear. That's actually shaped in a way to help capture sound from the environment and funnel it down your ear canal. As it hits the ear canal, it actually multiplies. It increases in strength before it hits the eardrum. The eardrum vibrates and then engages these three tiny bones that are called the ossicles, which take the signal into the cochlea. And you really need to understand that that is a beautiful system that works based on physics to make the sound louder before it gets to the cochlea. So you can understand that it's actually beneficial for patients to use the ear to pick up sound, not to have a microphone on the outside of your head, which basically bypasses that. So what traditional cochlear implants do, which is not what we are a fully implanted breakthrough cochlear implant, but what traditional cochlear implants have done for the last 30 years is they use an external microphone to pick up sound off the ear, very often on the back of the head, but definitely off the ear to pick up sound and then transmit it to an internal portion. They're completely bypassing the benefits of the external ear. So they don't use the ear at all. The only thing they use an ear for is to hang the microphone off of, similar to you might hang an ornament on a Christmas tree. We think that's a mistake. We think that you should use the ear to pick up sound because, first of all, it allows you to make a fully implanted technology, but also it just gives you that natural benefit that we believe will exist from using the ear to pick up sound. Not to mention it allows you to use things like AirPods or stethoscopes and other things that people on a day-to-day basis want to be able to use. They cannot use with a traditional cochlear implant unless they buy some sort of special equipment. So what we did is we took our sensor technology that we used in the Esteem device. We took that and we put it with a cochlear implant. It's something that all of the competitors have been telling us, you should probably do that. We finally listened to them. We took our technology and we put it with a cochlear implant. And now we believe that's an obvious opportunity for us to disrupt their market. And so we've taken that technology, we've made it fully implanted. And it's a little difficult to show a fully implanted device because there's nothing to see. So these animations here show the battery pack in the chest, a power data lead that connects to the sound processor in the head. But this is, you won't see any of this if you saw this patient. So I could have one right now, I do not, but if I had one right now, you wouldn't even be able to see it. So everything will be fully implanted, which allows the patient to be discreet about their hearing loss. They no longer have to advertise their disability. This is very similar to what LASIK was to vision, right? It allows you to have an opportunity to have your disability not be visible to everyone. We think that's going to increase adoption. We think that's going to lower stigma. And we think that's really going to allow us to capture a large portion of the market share right off the bat. Also, when you use a fully implanted solution like ours, you have less power needs. Microphones and all that other stuff can take a lot of processing power, right? There's a lot of processing power already in cochlear implants. But because we pick up the sound through the ear, we do not rely on a microphone. We do not rely on a microphone and also a bunch of filtering strategies to take out body noise and all that sort of stuff. It allows us to have lower power needs. So one of the benefits of our device, as we proceed and go through our trial, you'll be able to see this. One of the benefits of our device is it's going to allow a patient to have 4 to 5, maybe 6 days of charging of power before they need to recharge. Our competition is going to have much lower days, much less days between charging. So they're going to have to charge more frequently. I think that's going to be a problem for patients. So I think our architecture and the design choices that we made is really going to benefit the patient as we go forward. So I'm very excited about what we're bringing to the market. Again, just to break down the pieces a little bit more, we have a processor in the head. We have our sensor, which is what sets us apart from everybody else, that sits behind the ear, picks up the signal, and then that signal is sent to the processor. The battery pack is in the chest, and then there's a power data lead, which connects the power to the battery. All of this, I want to point out, it's not a science experiment. In fact, it's been incredibly de-risked. There's lots of components of this that have been parts of other technologies. Take the sensor, for example, which was part of our Esteem technology. Battery packs in the chest, this is similar for deep brain stimulation devices, sleep apnea devices, same with the power data lead. What we did that was completely novel is we took it all and put it together and made a fully implanted cochlear implant. And we're the first people to take a fully implanted cochlear implant in such a way that we do not have to rely on that external. So we're very excited about the future. This is a large market. Even though cochlear implants are not something you see very often in the wild, and I would argue part of that is because people don't want cochlear implants because they're such visible, large, external, cumbersome devices. It's actually a large market. Just in the United States alone, you have about 3 million people that could get a cochlear implant. But the wrinkle is only about 5% of those people actually have gotten a cochlear implant. Again, I bring you back to the very obvious point. The very obvious point is that the barrier for these people is they don't want to wear this big magnet on the side of their head with a big external. Some people do it, and that's great, and they're comfortable with it. But the majority of folks don't want to be walking around with a big thing stuck to the side of their head. And so now we're going to provide them with that opportunity. And because of the price tag of these devices and the number of people that are here just in the United States, it's a very large market just in the US of about 85 billion. The other thing, very dependable product, 24/7, very safe, right? So when I say safe, I mean, think about an external device you have to take off at night and put it on the side of your bed. That means something goes bump in the night. If an alarm happens in the middle of the night, you can't hear it. You can't wake up because you're completely deaf at that point. Our device won't have that. Patients can leave it on at night if they'd like. They can leave it on around the water. They can leave it if they're wearing a helmet. They can leave it on in all the situations that you and I could leave it on. So again, much more conducive to the day-to-day quality of life concerns that somebody might have as they're choosing between the manufacturers. It's very easy to use. Once it's implanted and your audiologist sets it, you essentially get to set it and forget it, as I like to say, from the old Bronco food dehydrator days, if you were a child of the 80s and 90s like I am. And so very easy to sort of set it and forget it. You can turn the volume up and down. You can turn it on and off with remote control. But it's very, very easy for these people to sort of go about their life without having to think about it. I had a patient from the early feasibility study contact me and said, this is a wonderful technology. The only thing I have to think about is charging it every 5 days. I don't have to think about taking it on and off. I don't have to worry about it falling off or breaking. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. All I have to worry about is just charging the device. That is completely different from everybody else on the market. Everybody else on the market has those big externals, and patients have to worry about it falling off and breaking. They have to worry about it getting damaged from water or the environment. And oh, by the way, if they do break it, that costs about $6,000, $8,000, maybe even $10,000 for those patients to replace it. They will not have that with our device, which is great for us. And I think that's really going to pull people into our fold as we come to the market. I do want to touch just quickly on the Esteem device for a couple of reasons. Esteem is our first product, FDA approved. It is not commercially, it's not a commercially viable product in a lot of ways right now because it's not covered by insurance, frankly. But there's a couple of very important lessons that we learned from it. First of all, we're the only company in the world that has gotten a fully implanted device, a fully implanted hearing device through FDA. We're the only company that's done it. Larger competitors have tried. We're the only ones to successfully get a fully implanted hearing device through FDA trials. We're now going on to our second device. The other thing that's very important to know is that that sensor that we're using for the Acclaim came from this product. So that sensor has been around now for about 20 years in patients. We have some patients that were in clinical studies over in Europe. Those were our first patients. So we've proven this. This has been de-risked. When I look at our stock price sometimes, and I get frustrated because I think people don't quite realize just how de-risked this investment already is. The sensor works. The product as a whole is a very proven technology. Cochlear implants are a proven technology. And so we're just going through the steps of going through our trial. And I'm going to talk in a minute about how we've already gone from an early feasibility study to a first stage of a pivotal study. And we just got approval to continue to go into to finish out the pivotal study. So we're de-risking this on a daily basis almost. And now is a great opportunity for people to jump on the ship and take a ride with us. Again, this is just a close-up of the ear, kind of gives you a sense of where the sensor and the driver are placed with the Esteem. And I'm going to just touch on this quickly to give you an idea of sort of the overall market, but I don't want to spend too much time on candidacy. But cochlear implants are for people with sensory neural hearing loss that is severe to profound. Okay, so these are people that have very bad hearing. A good way to think about it is if we are having a conversation, you can only hear about 40% of that conversation, even with the hearing aid. So you have a well-fit hearing aid in, you can still only hear about 40% or less of a conversation. So you have a significant amount of hearing. That's what cochlear implants are for. I bring this up because we are not competing with hearing aids. Hearing aids are great for mild, they're great for moderate hearing loss, and can be, when appropriate, can work for severe hearing loss. But cochlear implants are they're in a category by themselves. There are patients who have such a level of hearing loss, and they've tried hearing aids for years and years, but their hearing loss is so great that they need something different. Right now, all that can benefit those patients is our cochlear implants. And now we're going to say, look, you've been told you need a cochlear implant. You've been told that's the only solution you have available to you. Now you can pick the one that's fully implanted, invisible, don't have to worry about the hassle of the day-to-day messing with the external, or you can go get that external one, wear the big thing on the side of your head, worry about it falling off all the time. We think most people are going to pick the invisible version. We think most people are going to want to live their day-to-day life without having to worry about being tethered to some magnet on the side of their head. So we're very confident that we've built a better mousetrap, and we're very excited about our future. And then the Esteem just sort of sits in the middle there. It's a niche product. We are working on reimbursement for that product. I do believe that is a potential in the future, but right now it's a cherry on top of this investment. This investment makes a ton of sense just for the Acclaim and the breakthrough technology that it is. So think about the Acclaim, think about our ability to capture market share quickly when we get FDA approval in just less than 24 months, hopefully. We should really be able to take off, and that's what I want you to think about when you think about this investment. Again, the opportunity is enormous, and this is just US data. Obviously, people throughout the globe have hearing loss, but we focus on US adults when we talk about this investment opportunity to really explain it. Again, going over this because it's an important point. There are about 3 million people, adults in the United States, who could get a cochlear implant. Less than 5% of those people have gotten a cochlear implant. You have to ask yourself, why is that? These are technologies that have been around for 30, 40 years even. People know that they work, but why aren't more people getting them? Other manufacturers will say things like, oh, there's not awareness, or there's lack of clarity around insurance coverage. Nonsense. The reason people don't get this is because they're large, visible external devices. People don't even show up to their appointments when they've been told they need a cochlear implant because they don't want that thing on the side of their head. This is an opportunity for patients to address a hearing disability without being tied to that external. I absolutely believe there's going to be a large market for this, and I absolutely believe we're going to take market share from the competitors. Also, as people are living longer, so there's the existing market as it is, right? So that's the existing market today that our competitors talk about in their presentations. But you also have to think about what are the people that are not even showing up, right? We think we're going to actually grow the market as a whole because more people are going to come off the sidelines and say, I have significant hearing loss. I just don't want to talk about it because I haven't wanted to get that cochlear implant on the side of my head. So we're very excited about our ability to not only take market share, but potentially grow the market. And then organically, the market's growing as it is. People are living longer. As more people live longer, more people will experience significant, severe, profound hearing loss. So the market's going to get bigger as we go, and we just really think we have a fantastic opportunity to do very well. Now, when we talk about how many patients it's going to take, how many implants it's going to take for us to be successful, we only need a few thousand. Obviously, I want a lot more than that, and we're going to work our butts off to get there. But we only need a few thousand implants a year to do very, very well as a business. These are high dollar implants and with gross margins that are very favorable as we get going. So we only need a few thousand of these devices to really take off. I don't want to spend too much time here other than to show you that if you want to know the market, there's basically an oligopoly. So when you look at disrupting a market, one of the things you want to look at is there a tightly controlled oligopoly in charge? The answer is yes. There are 3 main companies that have basically been controlling this market for 30 years. We're very excited to be able to disrupt them. We also know that we are in the lead when it comes to fully implanted devices in general. As I said, we're the only company that's ever gotten a fully implanted hearing device through FDA trials in our Esteem device. We're also the first one in an IDE pivotal study, and to my knowledge, the farthest along. But very importantly, we have a better architecture than the other 2 are working on. The other 2 have made the poor decision to use a subdermal microphone, which I believe is going to hinder their rollout. And they've also made the poor decision to use a small battery in the head, which is going to require relatively frequent charging when you compare it to ours. It's going to be a little harder for patients to have to deal with that, in my opinion. And then the third competitor has made the rather poor choice to not even explore fully implanted hearing devices. So potentially, if they're serious about it, they'll need to look at us as an acquisition, or we will happily take their 10 to 15% market share right off the bat. So when you look at the timeline, and this timeline has shifted in a very positive direction for us recently. We were expecting, so we got IDE approval for a pivotal study at the end of last year. We did 10 patients at the beginning of this year. The FDA said, you can follow those 10 patients for 3 to 6 months and then get back to us on how they're doing. But definitely before 6 months. We looked at our 3-month data, we said, this looks pretty good, we want to submit now. We submitted now, and they agreed that we can go and expand the trial. So we're about 1 quarter ahead of where we thought we would be. And then we're also experiencing such a high demand or such a high interest level in this device that we think enrollment will go quite smoothly. So I'm anticipating about a 6-month cutoff, or sorry, a 6-month shortening of our timeline is a better way to say it, from where I was a couple of months ago, which should save us probably $10 to $15 million in capital expenditure as we go forward. So right now we're anticipating enrollment of the trial being done by some point in the first quarter of next year. And then we have 13 months of follow-up for those patients. And then we will submit to the FDA and hopefully get the FDA's decision in 2027. And as I said earlier, now that we're at the end of 2025, that is not far away from a medical device company. We are far away in the lead. Just a quick comment on commercialization before I open it up to questions. I wanted to highlight something that I think is very important, because a lot of biotech, maybe drug startups, other medical device startups, they have to worry about building a massive sales and marketing program that they're going to have to spend tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on to establish. That's not the case for us. For us, being in the cochlear implant space, it's a relatively small group of surgeons that do this on a regular basis. In the United States, you probably have somewhere between 300 to 500 people that do cochlear implants on a regular basis, but about 100 of those to maybe 150 of those are doing 80% of the cases. So we'll be able to focus a very targeted attack on those 100, 150 surgeons. We're going to start with about 30 to 35, and we've already got them identified, and we're already planning to work with them. Many of them are clinical trial sites or worked with us with the Esteem, or are people that have expressed a large amount of interest over the last several years as they knew we were working on this project. And we're going to go deep with those people. We're going to go deep with those people, and we're going to get them implanting 100 to 200 cases a year before we start looking to expand. Because we want this to be like a center of excellence, very similar to what Intuitive Surgical did when they came out with the Da Vinci robot. They didn't try to go everywhere. They wanted to prove it out in a few cases. They wanted to prove that patients would come to the site to get the implant if you had the breakthrough device. And so that's what we're planning here. We're not going to go to every mom and pop around. I don't have to have a bunch of suits going out, knocking on doors all day and paying them a bunch of money. We're going to go right to these people, and we're going to build a market that way. Here's a couple of the centers. I want to save some time for questions, so I'm going to try to move on. I do want to highlight, we already talked about this a little bit too, but I do want to highlight, we only need a few thousand devices. We only need a few thousand devices a year, and we're gonna start cooking with gas. So right as we get commercial, I anticipate us moving very quickly to be able to ramp up and hit that few thousand a year mark, and then from there it's just all gravy. So then from there we're going to be trying to get to that 10,000 mark and then beyond. Couple of investment highlights, but I'll leave it here, and I do want to turn it over to questions. So I am going to do that here. Bear with me as I click through here. There's a question, what is the process to install a fully implanted device? Is it outpatient? Yes, it is an outpatient procedure. It shares a lot of similarities between existing cochlear implants. So I want to make it very clear that existing cochlear implants, the technologies that are used today, also have to go through this process. It's done under general anesthetic. It's done in a surgery center or a hospital, but it is an outpatient procedure. Generally speaking, it takes somewhere between an hour, for traditional devices, an hour and a half to 2.5. Ours will probably take somewhere between 2 to 3 hours to implant. You go home, and pain is very different for people. So some patients say they basically had to take a Tylenol, and other patients feel a little funny after the general anesthetic, but generally speaking, not a lot of complications. the Esteem has been available since 2010. What sales trends and what are the constraints? So the Esteem device has been available since 2010. The constraint, I believe, the only constraint, is that it's not covered by insurance. We are working on that. I took over I've been around the company basically since 1995 when my father first invested, but I took over in 2015, the end of 2015. And one of the things we started to take very seriously was reimbursement for the Esteem. Since then, we have CPT codes, Category 3 CPT codes. We are now working on getting positive coverage policy. We'll also work on a HCPCS code and some other things. These are steps that should have been taken prior to me joining or becoming the CEO, but I will eventually get this product covered. That's something I feel very strongly about. We've also got 2 bills introduced in Congress that will hopefully allow us to get this covered. Because the Esteem, I should have said, why don't they cover it? CMS, Medicare, Medicaid, calls us a hearing aid. We are very clearly not a hearing aid. FDA doesn't call us a hearing aid. No other regulatory body calls us a hearing aid. The American Medical Association doesn't call us a hearing aid. So after we get them to properly classify this as a hearing prosthetic, I believe we'll have an opportunity to get coverage, and then I think the Esteem will become a commercially viable product. Another question, what are the regulatory milestones achieved to date for the Acclaim CI, and what are the challenges that remain before FDA approval and commercialization? From a regulatory clinical standpoint, I'm going to combine those. So we had to do an early feasibility study. We did 3 patients at Mayo Clinic, and those patients are still implanted. In fact, they're now hitting their 3-year milestone. So 3 years with a fully implanted breakthrough technology is a wonderful milestone just in and of itself. Then we had to get an IDE, investigational device exemption, that allowed us to start the trial. As I mentioned, we got that at the end of last year. Now that, for those who don't know, incredibly hard to get an IDE, especially for a fully implanted Class 3 medical device. The amount of testing and proof that you have to provide to the FDA to say, look, we've done all this testing, we've done all this work, here's our sterility or biocompatibility, here's all our bench testing to show that we believe this device is going to be safe if it's put in a human. You have to give all of that to the FDA, and we did that. And they said, yeah, this all looks pretty good. Why don't you go ahead and start your trial? That is a huge bar for a medical device company to get. We got that at the end of last year. Then we had to do the 10 patients, and then we had to report to them and say, looks pretty good. We think we should be able to continue going on. That was a huge milestone. That milestone just happened about a month ago, I believe we put out, or maybe it was even earlier this month. It's a huge milestone. And now we're going to be able to implant the next 46, and then we report on those patients. I have no reason to believe, I don't think it would be unreasonable of me to say this. There is no reason to believe that the next 46 patients won't perform as well or better than the first 10. So if we are to extrapolate what happened with the first 10, I feel very comfortable with where we're at, and I like our chances of getting FDA approval. To answer the question more fully, we have to submit in 2027, middle of 2027 is where we submit our PMA, and that PMA has to be approved by the FDA. How will you approach payer and Medicare reimbursement and the impact of proposed Hearing Device Clarification Act? So that has to do with the Esteem device. And so we are continuously trying to work with CMS to get them to properly classify the device. I am also going to tell you that with the current administration and the fact that we're an American company, we are the only cochlear implant company that is American owned and operated. I think there's an opportunity for us to make the case that says, look, CMS should really help us out here and reclassify this device. It would be good for America. I could create more jobs here in America. We keep our manufacturing here in America. So I think there will be a sympathetic ear to us within the administration. Next question, when do you expect FDA approval and will it be covered by insurance? And can you assure you will meet the Nasdaq listing before February 26th? Just to hit that question, again, I expect FDA approval in 2027. And the only way it doesn't happen in 2027 is essentially if we need to go to panel. But I would expect it in 2027. I do believe we will hit the Nasdaq listing. So we just got an extension. We've increased our balance sheet, has been wildly improved by the forgiveness of the debt that we had. So we have no debt anymore. So our stockholders' equity is in a much better position. I also believe that people will understand that this is a viable, valuable investment. And as people sort of get on the right page and pull their head out of the sand, if you will, I think this stock will start to appreciate in a very positive direction. That's all my time, so I will have to end it there. I thank you for your interest. Please reach out to us through the website if you would like to talk or a one-on-one. Thank you very much.